Freestyle Interfaith, episode number 100, The Authors of Their Own Light. Peace to you and welcome to all who gather and all who were called. This is Freestyle Interfaith. Tonight we tell one story in 5 voices. 2 of them rose with fire in their hands. 3 of them rose with songs in their throats. But hear this clearly, they were fighting the same firmament. They simply struck it at different points along the chain, because the lease was never only on the body, it was always, finally, a lease on ownership itself, the right to own your labor, your name, your voice, your light. Tonight, we honor the authors who refuse to be merely the property in someone else's book. Part 1. The Witnesses of Fire. Before any artist could own a song, someone first had to insist that a human being owns himself. That insistence cost everything. Denmark Vesey, the architect of the refusal. Consider Denmark Vesey of Charleston, a man who had tasted the lie of the lease from both sides, for he had won a lottery, purchased his own freedom, and built a life as a carpenter of standing. He could have lived quietly inside his own small liberty. The firmament permits that, it loves the freed man who forgets the bound. But Vesey understood something the system could not forgive, that no freedom is real while it is rented to a few and denied to the many. He read the scriptures of Exodus and heard not metaphor, but instruction. In 1822, he organized what may have been the most ambitious plan for liberation the South had ever known. They stopped him before the first match was struck, betrayed, tried, and hanged. And in their terror, the authorities tore down the very church he had helped build, Mother Emanuel. But you cannot hang an idea. The church rose again. It stands in Charleston to this day. Vesey's lesson is the cornerstone of our covenant. The refusal must be total, or it is not yet freedom. Nat Turner, the prophet of the reckoning, and then Nat Turner in Southampton County, Virginia, 1831. Where Vesey was the architect, Turner was the prophet, a man who saw visions in the sky and read them as a divine mandate that the time of the lease had ended. He was a preacher, a reader of the word in a world that made literacy itself a crime. When Turner rose, the firmament did not merely fear him, it was shaken at its foundation. For he proved that the system's deepest claim, that the enslaved had accepted their bondage in their hearts, was a lie. He revealed the rage beneath the silence, the dignity beneath the obedience. The retribution was terrible, and the cost in lives weighs heavy on the conscience of history. We do not romanticize the blood, but we must understand the truth he spoke into being. A people will not be leased forever, and the longer the lease is enforced, the more violent its breaking. Turner is the warning carved in stone. He is the question the comfortable never want to answer. What did you think would happen? Part 2. The Witnesses of Song. A century passed. The visible chains fell. But the firmament, as we have learned, does not die. It changes costume. And so the battle for ownership moved from the field to the studio, from the body to the master recording. Here, 3 artists waged a quieter war, the war for a man to own the very light he creates. Sam Cooke, the founder who built the door. Begin with Sam Cooke. The world remembers the voice, silk over steel, the sound of a man who could make heartbreak feel like grace. But the genius was not only in the throat, it was in the ledger. In an era when black artists were routinely robbed, paid pennies, denied their publishing, leased their own genius back to them at a loss, Cooke did the unthinkable. He founded his own record label, SAR Records. He started his own publishing company. He insisted on owning his masters, the original recordings, the source of all wealth. Do you hear the echo? Cook was declaring the leasehold void. He understood, as Vesey did, that freedom rented is not freedom owned. He was building the door through which others could walk. And when the moment of the movement called, he answered, writing an anthem of change that became the sound of a people's hope. His light was cut short, and the questions around his death remain unsettled to this day. But the architecture he built, the principle that the artist must own his own work, that survived him. He laid a cornerstone in the studio, just as Vesey laid one in the church. Prince, the sovereign, who reclaimed his name. Then came Prince, perhaps the purest embodiment of the migration our covenant describes, from property to sovereign. At the height of his powers, Prince discovered the truth of the modern firmament, that his record label owned his masters, owned his name in commerce, owned, they believed, him. So he did something the world called madness. He appeared with the word slave written on his face. He surrendered his very name, becoming an unpronounceable symbol, refusing to let them sell a man under a name that man no longer controlled. Understand what this was? This was Vesey's refusal and Turner's defiance, fought not with fire but with identity itself. He was saying, if you own my name, I will not answer to it. I will become unsellable. I will become unforeseeable. And he won. He fought free of the contract, reclaimed his catalog, and spent his later years preaching one gospel to every young artist who would listen: own your masters, own your life. Michael Jackson, the strategist who bought the sky, and finally, the strategist, Michael Jackson. Set aside for tonight the spectacle and the sorrow. Consider instead the mind for the game. For Jackson understood the firmament's architecture more completely, perhaps, than any artist before him. He grasped a truth most performers never see, that the true power is not in singing the song, it is in owning it. And so, in 1985, in a move of staggering audacity, he purchased the ATV music catalog, including the rights to the songs of the Beatles themselves. Think of the inversion. The descendant of the least and the bound now held the deed to the most valuable catalog in the Western canon. The man the firmament once defined as property had become the owner of property the empire treasured most. This was Tubman's strategic genius, and Cook's ownership principle scaled to the heavens. Jackson did not merely break his own lease. He bought a piece of the sky itself, and in doing so, proved that the firmament's ceiling was never solid. It could be purchased. It could be climbed. It could be owned by the very people it was built to keep down. The single thread, one refusal, 5 forms. To make the connection plain for all who watch, these 5 lived in different centuries and fought with different weapons, but they spoke one sentence in 5 tongues. The witness, the lease they refused, their weapon, the cornerstone they laid. Denmark, Vesey, the lease on the body, organization and faith, freedom must be total. Nat Turner, the lease on the soul, prophecy and uprising, the lease cannot hold forever. Sam Cooke, the lease on the labor, ownership of masters, the artist owns his work. Prince, the lease on the name, sacrifice of identity, a sovereign answers to no owner. Michael Jackson, the lease on the very sky, strategy and acquisition, the ceiling can be owned. The chain, as we have traced across these episodes, migrated from the wrist to the wallet to the will. And so did the resistance. Vesey and Turner fought for the body. Cook, Prince, and Jackson fought for the creation. But every one of them was answering the same ancient lie, that you are property, with the same eternal truth: I am the author of my own life. Closing protocol. Musical cue. The cello and piano rise together, joined now by a faint, wordless choir, voices without language, a sound like dawn. Then it gentles into a single warm chord. 2 rows with fire, 3 rows with song, but all 5 rows. And here is the covenant they hand to us, across the centuries. You were not born to rent your own existence. Not your body, not your name, not your voice, not the light that only you can make. The firmament will always offer you a comfortable lease. The covenant asks something harder, that you pick up the pen and write your own name on the deed of your own soul. Peace to the architects. Peace to the prophets. Peace to the singers who own their songs. And peace to you, the next author holding the pen. We will meet again at the crossroads.